You're listening to Music Tectonics.
Welcome back to Music Tectonics, where we go beneath the surface of music and tech. I'm your host, Dimitri Vitsa. I'm also the founder and CEO of Rock, Paper, Scissors, the PR and marketing firm that specializes in music tech and music innovation. And today we've got some really helpful information for anyone that's at a musical instrument brand. It is applicable to anyone in music tech, but we're definitely focusing in on that. We're bringing in our new Chief Creative Officer, Adam McHeffey, formerly the CMO with Artiphon, the innovative musical instrument creator. And Adam has done so much cool stuff to help build communities around musical instruments and music tech. He knows a ton about social video, about ads, about email marketing. And so we wanted to give you a really practical guide to marketing musical instruments. So we'll get to that feature interview, but first, the news.
Rock, paper, scanner.
Tristra, so good to be with you again.
Yes, it's that time again.
It's that time where we scan the news and see what stuck out for us. Why don't you kick us off? You got anything that caught your eye this week?
I don't know if anyone else found this so fascinating last week, but I saw that Fever, which is a live events discovery platform, did a 6-figure raise?
Yeah.
Or 7-figure. Sorry, man. It was a huge raise, over $1 billion valuation.
Yes. In fact, I think if we count the digits, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 9 digits, right?
9 digits. This is why I'm in PR, not in accounting, everybody. But that said, I found that absolutely mind-boggling.
Well, the live side of the business and the ticketing in particular, which is almost like the credit cards or the banks of live music, is a big deal.
Yeah, the picks and shovels are clearly considered valuable by investors. And right after Fever made this announcement about its raise, it then went and made another announcement pretty much hot on the heels of acquiring Dice, the ticketing platform.
Which seems to be the, quote, independent ticketing platform that has the most traction out there.
Yeah, and that has also a pretty amazing fundraising history. So I'm eager to see how this all turns out for Fever/Dice and how these two companies come together. There's been a lot of movement to kind of unite live ticketing, event discovery, music discovery. I mean, Spotify is, at least in my world, is always pushing events on me, and sometimes really funny ones. It's like if you listen to one 80s playlist, all of a sudden you have all the casino gigs in your feed. But that aside, being old aside, it's pretty phenomenal. That raise really caught my eye.
Yeah.
Another kind of quirky thing that made me think twice is from Digital Music News. I saw an article, AM radio mandate is moving in Congress. So on one hand, we have this interesting attempt to keep AM radio in cars and on the dial in important places. And yet we also have this call from some of the same people who are saying basically, hey, if we're going to have AM radio mandate, we need to have artists paid for the use of their music. So I thought that was really, really interesting that those two political interests have entwined.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's crazy that AM radio has stuck around this long, and also that artists in the United States don't get paid for radio airplay.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was pretty fascinating. And, in general, radio is still such a useful medium for many artists and in general for society. If you're out there and you want to listen to a really fascinating podcast, after you listen to all of the Music Tectonics episodes, of course, I'd recommend checking out The Divided Dial, which I think is from Media Matter. Something else I found really interesting, Dimitri, is a great article by Eamon Ford, who's been on this podcast as a guest, talking about some of his work. But he wrote a piece for The Guardian called AI, Bot Farms, and Innocent Indie Victims, How Music Streaming Became a Hotbed of Fraud and Fakery, which, okay, sort of a cataclysmic headline. And I think anyone listening to this podcast is probably aware that streaming fraud is a thing and that people are taking it seriously in the business, especially on the distributor side. But this is a pretty good overview of just how it impacts artists in particular, because many artists are getting basically strikes against them, getting their music taken down, getting all sorts of complicated bureaucratic issues they're having trouble resolving because of activity that's being perpetrated by someone else sometimes, or through they choose a promotional strategy that looks like inauthentic activity or maybe involves some inauthentic activity unbeknownst to them. So it's an issue that keeps coming up again and again. I think we first read about this in 2023, somewhere back in there.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not gone away. There's definitely been efforts to try to address it, but it's almost like some of those efforts are missing the mark. And so in addition to the fact that there's fraudulent bot farm stuff happening, but really what this article talks about is the impact on artists that haven't done anything wrong. Even not just that they might have done something wrong by accident, but they get caught in the filters, even though they really haven't done anything fraudulent. So all of a sudden they get 1,000 or 10,000 extra plays, and it's assumed that something weird is happening rather than, no, actually they had a moment, a small moment. And then how do you work with your distributor or the streaming services to get your stuff put back up or to keep your reputation safe as well? It continues to be a challenge.
Eamon does an amazing job covering those issues with his usual spice. So it's a good read.
Well, speaking of AI, I only have 2 articles I wanted to bring out. They're actually related to each other, and they're not that unrelated to what you were just talking about, because some of that conversation in that Guardian piece you mentioned is specifically about AI created music opening up the floodgates of music that might need bot farms to listen to it. But as he does, Ed Newton Rex posted a great article or op-ed on Music Business Worldwide with the title of "Do Not Settle." And it's basically a call to the major record labels to not settle with the big generative AI companies that have already publicly said that they are not licensing the music that they're training on. Suno and Udio are facing lawsuits from the 3 major labels, Sony, Universal Music, and Warner Music. And Ed is saying, hold on a minute here. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we negotiating with these folks that we've already said have done something wrong here? He's pretty cordial about it. He said this might just be part of the negotiation process across the board to get people into licensing training data. But it was a pretty strong piece. And then over at Billboard magazine, Kristen Robinson wrote a piece called, quote, "Ethical AI Music Firms React to the Majors Suno Udio Licensing Talks, quote, we just get left behind." And she quotes various folks from Ed Newton Rex is quoted, as well as a couple of leaders from ethical AI music companies saying, what the heck? We're trying to do the right thing here. And it's just frustrating, I think, for them to know that it's possible that some other things are happening behind closed doors as well.
Yeah, I think I'd be really frustrated too if I had spent a long time ensuring that I'd licensed all this data, and that it's hard to ensure that your data set is fully licensed. And then to hear that the majors, maybe who you had been like knocking on their door and poking and saying, hey guys, let's talk, that they went and sat down with these rogues.
Yeah.
Rogues, maybe they're lovable rogues for some people out there, but they are rogues.
Well, they're rogues on standard practice in the industry,
yes,
and possibly the law as well, depending on how the courts come down and what the punishments are there. I think the trick is record labels they have the carrot and the stick, right? And they always are faced with, are we playing ball or are we street fighting? Which one is it, right?
Maybe it's a little of both.
And it also could be, and probably we're not supposed to say this out loud, but it also could be that the record labels have seen the political tides turning and the shifts around copyright and around the courts to the point to say, well, we got to negotiate now or else we might end up with nothing as well. I don't think that's exactly what's happening, but I think there are a lot of different pressures from different directions. And I think they have to at least consider, well, is there a conversation to be had here? Before, as much as YouTube is a very powerful income revenue generator for the music industry and would like to grow beyond that of what Spotify pays the industry. The truth is that they also had to come back after the fact and come up with a solution that this content was getting uploaded to YouTube that did not have licenses, and they had to come up with another method there. So it may be that labels are trying to get ahead of that type of solution as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think there's so much that could be going on. There's a little bit of what, for those of us who remember this word, Kremlinology involved in both the what will copyright policy be and also what are the majors thinking.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Yeah.
So interesting news there. Tritra, as always, fun to scan the headlines with you. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk to you next week.
Now for our feature interview.
Hey, you heard this week's guest, Adam McHeffey, on last week's episode, where he interviewed 3 really interesting independent artists who release a lot of their music on social media platforms. It was part of this online events we do, our seismic activity, and Adam helped us bring together some great folks there. But I thought it would be fun to immediately have Adam on the podcast to share some of his expertise on how to market and sell musical instruments. Adam recently left the pioneering musical instrument company Artiphon, where he was CMO for 7 years. There, he was known for his highly creative videos and content, nurturing a large international community of creators and launching several new musical instruments. Now, Adam's the Chief Creative Officer here at Rock, Paper, Scissors, and I thought it would be fun to dig in with Adam to help you launch your next instrument or product, or maybe even your first one. You've been on the podcast before. Welcome back, Adam McHeffey.
Thank you so much, Dimitri. It is a pleasure to be back on the podcast. I just want to say for anybody listening out there, I'm so excited about this podcast. We are going to get really specific with how to sell a musical instrument. If you have a musical instrument in your head or in prototype, or you're getting ready to start manufacturing, this is going to be a really helpful resource for you. I'm going to give away a lot of my insider secrets, a couple things that have worked for me. And although we're mostly talking about hardware, physical instruments that you play, I do hope that some of these lessons are helpful for anybody launching an app or even a B2B software service. I think what we're really talking about here is getting people excited, making sure you're capturing demand in an efficient way, and launching your business. I really think it's an exciting time to be launching something, especially a creative tool, and we're here to help with that.
Out of the gate, he's ready to help. Adam McHeffey is on
Let's
the
do
mic. And we can always do another one if we want to talk about software and apps and B2B, I think. But yeah, I think you're right. Some of these things apply across the board. All right, let's dive in. If you're marketing a brand new musical instrument right now, what would be the first thing you do from a brand perspective?
Well, I'll tell you what I don't want you to do. I don't want you to start posting without a strategy, some sketches and some prototypes. Just let's be really careful because first impressions matter a lot. If you have a name you like, grab the URLs. Great. If you have a name you like, grab the Instagram account, grab the TikTok. Make sure you have that, but then just wait on it. While you're in this moment where you're planning and you're strategizing, it is a great time to go network in your industry. Find your local music tech meetups. There's a great one in New York. There's a great one in Portland. That's where Dimitri is. That's where I am. They're all over the country. It is a great time to get out there. We have a full list of just every single trade and music business show that we attend and we go to. Start making some plans just to really get yourself out there and networking one-on-one with people. And I really want to get into the specifics here around what we're going to do to begin capturing interest. But before you do any of that, we really need to make sure that we have a strategy in place. I don't want you to come out of the gates too early.
You know, I love what you're saying, Adam, because nowadays you can start a company and invent something from anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. And so it's really important to realize there are people out there who can help you, who you can collaborate with, ways to vet your ideas, hone in on things and so forth. So I love, especially in this post-pandemic world, the first thing you say is get offline and go and meet people and talk to them. I love it. But let's get really practical here. What's the order of operations? Once you have your URLs, you're kind of honing your concept. Maybe you you've already figured out exactly what the product is. You've started to build out the audience. What are the top 3 to 4 components of a marketing strategy?
I want you to start just by getting your schedule be really crisp. And this might change, but grab a piece of paper and write down a handful of milestones. Start as far away as you can go. When do you think you could conceivably have your product in hand? Maybe it's a year from now. Write that down as a potential launch date. And we promise we'd get specific. You want to be strategic there. The summer is not a great time to launch a musical instrument. People are traveling. Spring and fall are great times to launch an instrument. Holidays are risky because people are shopping for gifts, so there's a lot of money moving around. People are in a spendy mood. But if you're not delivering during the holidays, then that's really tricky. I love Labor Day. We're going to see a lot of new products come out this Labor Day in 2025. We saw a ton come out around that same holiday last year. So be really strategic with that. And now let's work backwards one other step. When are you going to launch it online? That's different than having it in hand and delivering it. And you really want to be clear about that date as well. And you have one additional marketing moment, which is when are you going to unveil your brand? And all 3 of these need to be treated really, really carefully. And ideally, you're doing all of that within the same 365 days. It's not always possible. Some people build up hype for years around a product. I would say if you have a couple of months between each of those milestones, that's plenty of time to build up hype. The next thing I want to talk about is once you have that schedule in place, what specifically are you going to do? There are a lot of ways to get in front of an audience. These are my 4 favorites for going after a musical instrument crowd. The first one is email and SMS. And I'm going to bundle those together because most platforms handle both these days. The second is your organic socials and the content that drives that forward. 3 is artist engagement, working with creators. I don't like to use the word influencer. I call them artists or creators. We could talk more about that later. And 4 is paid advertising. And I put that 4th very deliberately because I don't want you spending money on advertising until we've really set up a good foundation with the other 3.
Got it. So first off is to really set some benchmark dates or milestones of when, at the very least, when you're going to launch the product. Maybe you go a little earlier, a couple of months before that when you're going to launch the brand, but several other kind of milestones that you're planning to achieve before you just dive into marketing. Makes total sense. And then you've mentioned these 4 kind of buckets of ways to gain traction. So let's talk about those. Let's go through each of those and tell us, like, what do we need to know? Is there a top tip? Are there common pitfalls? I think you started with email and SMS.
So let's start with email and SMS. It's not too early to get this going. Start a free MailChimp account, or there are so many good ones out there. And as you travel to these shows, as you network in your industry, start grabbing people's emails just one by one. And I think a really great first goal is to have 100 emails on your list. It's doable just through baseline networking, organic. You can get to 100 emails pretty quickly. Have a QR code on your phone. And as you're at these events, have people scan it, grab their email. Everybody will be so happy to do that for you. It's such a simple way to support. So that's how I recommend people get started. Once you get a little bit more advanced, a common pitfall that I see, people have really not gotten used to segmentation, and that is so important, especially in the early days of launching a business. You're going to talk to those first 100 people very differently than you're going to talk to your D2C customers a year from now. So do what you can to stay organized with all of that. I think the second one I mentioned was content and organic socials. I really want you to have a solid plan in place before you get started on this, because we don't want to make a handful of videos and then get too busy and fall off. I want you to think about what is truly compelling about your product, your instrument to you. What do you love about it? What excites you? And then teach that to your audience. You should not be doing any selling on your Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube account in the first 30, 60, 90 days. You need to find a community that's interested in modular synthesis or educating children on music or whatever makes your product special. Start talking about that. I would say the most common pitfall there, People feel that they need to post every single day, and they really just don't. That is a complete myth. My most viral successes I've had recently have had nothing to do with posting schedule or time of day or even frequency. It's just getting it right. It's just getting it right and making something that we all loved. Then I talked about artists and creator engagement. When you start, and even after you're well established, I want you to go small. Do not chase a big celebrity out the gate. You're welcome to email them, and you may find that one or two of them are huge fans of the brand, but do not put $10,000 aside for a celebrity to come in and talk about your brand. I want you to go after 30 smaller creators with followings between 10 and 30,000 followers. Again, I'm trying to be really specific here, Dimitri, because this is what I've seen work when you're trying to create a flurry of content up front. I feel like I gave you the pitfall and the top tip there all at the same time.
That's cool. That's
and then
great.
For ads, wait on this until you have something that people can take action on. So if we're going to launch a crowdfund, we can actually start a couple of weeks ahead of the crowdfund, and we can start to drive signups saying, be one of the first. That's worth spending money on. But we don't just want to boost content for the likes, the views, the shares this early in the game. We want to save our money for where we can really make sure that we're capitalizing on that early interest.
Is there kind of like an intersection between these things? Like you mentioned the real importance of collecting email and phone numbers at the very beginning. And then at the end, you said, don't use ads just to boost posts, but for calls to action. Does it make sense to have like a newsletter or a waiting list or something like that has a sign up on your website and then to boost that with ads?
Yeah, you certainly can. I just don't want you to start that too early. I would prefer that you're building an audience that is really passionate about what you're doing, that is super interested in that newsletter. And when we start paying for ads, we are immediately going after a different behavioral segment. Meta and the other advertising tools, they're going to target a behavior. And for the most part, we're looking for leads to later drive conversions or conversions right off the bat. And it's just going to serve us much better when we have a landing page where we're explaining a little bit more about the product, where people can do a pre-order or at least show their intent to place a pre-order. And really, we're not going to kick ads up and start paying for them until our pre-order campaign, whether it's a crowdfund or you're doing it on your own site, is live. And that's where we're really going to start to boost it.
You know, in a way, what I think I'm hearing you say is you really have to have confirmation qualitatively through these social interactions, both in person and online, that you have product market fit, that you have a musical instrument that has a community that people are interested in. And adding the fuel to the fire of paid advertising is basically kind of like throwing money away too early if you don't have that confirmation that people are just signing up because they love you or they love your video or they love your instrument or they love your invention.
What you're going to learn through the content that you make, through the networking that you're doing, is you're going to be surprised at who is interested in what you're doing. We work with a company called BlipBlocks, and absolutely a fantastic company, and they make the only synthesizers that are safety certified for children 3 and up. So we figured we would make content that shows a lot of kids. I have kids. I use them in our content. We've gone to a number of schools, and kids do love the product. Kids genuinely love the product. But when we show children in our paid advertising, it doesn't work well. This is something that we had to learn. And what we found after surveying our customers is there are a lot of people that love these products that don't have kids. And I feel like they had to kind of weave their way through our advertising and their socials to decide that it was something that they liked. Whereas if we made content that spoke to maybe an older audience, that would resonate right away. And we wouldn't know that unless we tested multiple things with multiple markets. And because of that, we're better off and we were able to make all of our advertising more efficient. So you have to learn and unlearn and test a lot of different things up front. And we don't want to be spending thousands of dollars on ads until we have really good hypotheses there.
So you've helped explain a lot of things that work and some things, some pitfalls as well, but things are constantly changing with social media algorithms, with influencer brand relationships, paid ads. What's working right now that a lot of marketers don't even know about yet?
Community first content is winning. The brands seeing the best results are shifting away from super polished, high budget influencer partnership, and they are investing in community-driven creators. I am encouraging all of the brands that we work with to double down on an influencer that works really well, as opposed to trying to do 3 micro-influencers. I'd rather you do 3 videos with one person that you feel like really matches your community, and now you've got a real brand ambassador on your hands. Customers need to be reminded maybe 7 times that you exist, what the name of the brand is, what the name of the product is. And so it makes sense to do multiple videos with the same creator. On the subject of community, there are some brands out there that are driving their community in a really effective way, and it is absolutely helping to keep revenue up. I see brands starting Discord channels, and I know it sounds easy to do. It's not. It takes daily moderating and posting. But we now have musical instrument companies that have Discords with thousands of people in them. And we have these users coming into the Discord to ask for advice just on general production stuff, things that don't even refer back to the company. They just now have this trusted community, and it's all under the brand umbrella. So I think all of that is really great. I would also say that right now, brands are still so heavily reliant on meta advertising, and it is a great time to take some risks on other platforms. For instance, Reddit's tools just got really, really good for advertising. And I just learned this recently, Dimitri. 40% of accounts on Reddit don't have a Meta account. So as marketers, we all just lean on Meta so hard because for years, that's what's worked best. But engagement is way down on that platform. And you have these other platforms bubbling up with increasingly sophisticated advertising tools. And I really encourage you to play around with that. If you are on Reddit or on Discord yourself as a user, you'll know what I'm talking about here. Think about that. What platforms are you on? Because I bet if you're in the business of making musical instruments, you already are a part of some of these communities. So really think about that and go to advertise in the watering holes that you go to yourself. Don't just automatically default to Meta because your ads agency is telling you to do so.
I love that. I know when I'm researching a musical instrument or an interface or effects or whatever, Reddit always comes up. Even if you're searching on Google, Reddit's the thing that comes up where you're like, oh, I actually have like solid information from somebody who literally just went through this same process with me. It's real people. It's very now. It's very relevant. So that's super helpful. All right, listen, Adam, we have to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to ask you about what's coming next. I mean, you've always told me that it's not about learning one skill and then just doing it over and over again, but you really have to be aware of how things are shifting. We'll be right back.
Come hang out with the Music Tectonics team. Join us from wherever you are in the world at Seismic Activity, Music Tectonics' free online event series. About once a month, we gather the music tech community for networking, discussions, and demos by innovators and inventors. Join us and tune in to the tremors that are about to become major shakeups in the industry. See the upcoming topics on our schedule and register for our next event at musictectonics.com. Get ready to light up the chat and join in the conversation. Seismic Activity is fun, fast-paced, and interactive. Everyone who works where music and tech meet is welcome. See you soon.
Okay, we're back, Adam. And based on everything that you've been talking about so far in the interview, I'm curious, what do you think is coming next in terms of effective marketing strategies? You've got the foundations and the basics and up to the present. Where do you think things will go over the next couple of years?
It's true that what worked 6 months ago won't necessarily work today. And you constantly need to adapt and try new things. I'm going to answer the question in two parts. I'm going to give you a organic, old-fashioned answer, and then I want to give you a futuristic answer as well.
All right.
Okay, so my organic answer is that it's going to go back to basics. I think we're going to see a resurgence of in real life events and community meetups and real experiences. Dimitri, I moderated a panel last week. You were there. And we had Alejandro Lombardi, professionally known as the Frenetic. He is this online beat maker who has done deals with Akai and Adidas, and he plays his MPC and finger drums like you wouldn't believe. Just a super talented finger drummer. And he reminded me of the importance of just showing up to in-person events. And when you go to NAMM or CES or Music Tectonics or any of these meetups, you see it pretty quickly. And when you go to those events, in addition to everything you're doing on the digital side, it all just clicks together. You begin to create this perfect storm that's really hard to replace. So in a world where we're always worried about tracking and frequency and oversaturation and budgets, just get out of your house. Just please shut your computer and get out there and show somebody your instrument. Call a customer. So I'm a very old-fashioned marketer. On the future side, I think that we're going to see some really, really exciting things. I think personalization is coming through in an extremely big way. If you're not already putting hi first name in your email, you're way behind, because that simple optimization of calling people by their first name, it'll increase your open rates, it'll increase your click-through rates. It's been proven enough times. Take that and multiply it 10x. And I think that the amount of personalization that we'll be able to do as we bring people into our funnels, as we bring people into our websites, is really going to make the entire internet this wonderful, customized, personalized experience. And we're going to be able to give people experiences that really meet them where they're at and make them feel like they're right at home. We're going to be bridging the personal touch on a tech-enabled scale.
That's super interesting. It's like the things you talked about at the beginning of the interview around segmentation, like thinking about segmentation early was like the first version of personalization. But now you're saying it'll get even more and more specific to each, not only audience, but individual, so that you can both track on what the individual's problems are, challenges, and identify the solutions you can offer that are very specific to their use case, which is awesome. Speaking of being personal, I want to talk a little bit about what's happening with you and your career, in the sense that you went from being the CMO at Artiphon to now representing many brands at Rock, Paper, Scissors as the Chief Creative Officer here. I'm curious, Adam, what are you most excited about now that you're able to break out of marketing a single brand to working with a wider variety?
First of all, I'm having a blast. At Artiphon, the brand was minimal. Everything had to be clean and sleek. When we brought BlipBlox on as a client, I talked about them a little bit before. They make these synthesizers, safety certified for children. Everything got super colorful. We're playing with pinks and purples and blues. We're playing with lighting, and we're just having fun. It is all about the sheer fun of play. We have another client called Eternal Research. They make the Demon Box, which is this triangular instrument that you play using electromagnetic frequencies. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, please go check out Eternal Research, because it is a brand doing some really interesting things. And you'll quickly see that brand has a very different tone of voice.
It's like the opposite of BlipBlox. It's the opposite
of BlipBlox, and I play them both. Every hour I'm context switching between the two. But that's exactly what I love. Demon Box is dark and moody, and there's so much emphasis and importance put on that look and feel and maintaining it. The products do two radically different things. And for me, being able to slip into that voice is really, really fun. I actually feel like I can play all of these instruments. They're all completely different. I play them equally well. They're not different in my head. I just have fun with them and I create something interesting. But then when we go to market it, you can bet that when we're casting talent, it is a radically different pool of actors and actresses that we're pulling from. So to me, That is workplace nirvana, being able to slip in and out of these different brands and also understanding their business challenges. One business might have an issue with, without giving specifics here, one brand might have an issue with just getting in front of more people. They just simply need to get in front of more people, but we know if we can do that, people love it. And another product might have difficulty explaining how you play it. Maybe it looks cool and everybody wants it, but then you take it out of the box and it's a little bit difficult to play. That was certainly the case at Artiphon. And we really invested in great onboarding videos that we made ourselves. We invested in having creators make their own versions of those same videos so that we knew that our customers would have a great experience even after they took the product out of the box and started playing. So all of these businesses have such different challenges, and I love understanding that and coming up with strategies to help solve them.
Yeah, I like watching you in action on these variety of brands. You dialed in so much on Artiphon. Like, you're kind of a legend in the musical instrument world and the marketing world in music tech because you really dialed in like the community component, the social and creator component, where you were creating original videos, playing stuff yourself. I loved seeing you on stage with an Orba, where you were like just right out of the gate getting the whole audience involved. And I know you've done it with kids and at libraries and all that kind of stuff. And so you really had it like dialed in. You had like an Artiphon brand presence that was, whether it was digital or in person. But now you get to take all those honed skills and like apply them to a lot of different companies and a lot of different use cases. And it's really fun to see you pick up an instrument and be like, how's this work? And you start playing it. And then all of a sudden you start explaining it. And then you start saying things. And then the founders are like, that's exactly what I meant. Or like, I never thought of that. Or it's fun to see you in action.
If you're marketing a musical instrument for a company and it's an instrument that you did not help design or build, please, the first thing you should do is learn the instrument. Watch every video they send you, read every PDF they send you, and become the expert on it. Write out questions, write out feedback. And this is music we're talking about, so I treat it with a level of great import. Learn the instrument, learn how to play it, and you will be a much better marketer for knowing those ins and outs.
All right. This is fun talking a little bit about your engagement. And one of the reasons I love having you on the team at Rock, Paper, Scissors now is because you were a client of ours as well. And I get a lot of insights into, what it was like for you to hire us and what the experience was on the PR, the earned media side. So I want to ask you, how does all of this marketing stuff that we've been talking about align with PR, with earned media?
Even if you do everything we've talked about so far, and you have great organic content, and you've got a few artists, and your email list is growing, there are very few replacements for traditional PR. And what I mean by that is the trust and the authority that you get from Time Magazine, TechCrunch, Engadget. I'm mostly talking about the musical instrument space right now, so those are some important ones, but I'm thinking about Sound on Sound and Music Radar, Music Ally. These have all been critical for the success that I've had with my musical instrument companies. They add validity to everything you're doing, especially if it's your first product. There are also two different press moments when you're launching your instrument. One is you're launching your brand, you've got your imagery, you're launching your pre-order. That's a marketing moment. But then I want you to make sure that you're thinking about the press when you have your units ready to go as well, because that's really a second moment where you're sending it to a reviewer for a hands-on review and they're actually going to give it a score. That is another critical moment that you can capitalize on. And then once we start talking about Q4 and gift guides for the holidays, these publications are critically important. This is how you will really start to multiply your business, by getting in a few of these gift guides in October, November, and really just the first week of December. This is such an important moment. And these outlets, these types of outlets, are so important for reminding shoppers that you exist when they're in their buying mindset. Musical instruments do extremely well in Q4 because they make a great gift, because people want to gift something that is intellectually stimulating, especially if you have a product that's screen free. That's a whole angle that you could be playing with right now. You will be able to get in gift guides. It certainly helps to know somebody in the industry of PR. Let me give one really fun example that I think is very relevant to 2025. If you go on a ChatGPT and you ask it a question about Artiphon, for instance, let's use another specific example, I'm going to guarantee you that it's going to be pulling information from our reviews in TechCrunch and Engadget and all of these other A-list press outlets. So when we talk about optimizing ChatGPT for search, traditional media and these outlets play a massive, massive role because they rank so much higher on the internet than your own website or a forum or one of the smaller blogs. So it really is important and very relevant today to driving your business forward.
I mean, even at Rock, Paper, Scissors, we're hearing more and more people who approach us about our services. Hey, where'd you find out about us? Oh, I asked ChatGPT, and I know it's from the past 20 years of, content development and SEO and press we've created, press that we've gotten, and so forth as well. So yeah, appreciate that. And it's funny, I don't know if you said this is on your mind right now, but I think you just helped us develop a new download, a new kind of white paper that's at the rockpaperscissors.biz website. If you go to resources called Your Guide to Gift Guides, people who are listening to this can actually get a little information about what the strategy is for gift guides, what it takes to build the momentum to go from smaller press to bigger press, how to plan for lead time, the importance of telling stories year round. And my favorite part about it is it actually has a really beautiful calendar showing when are you supposed to start doing PR for Father's Day gift guides or Mother's Day gift guides or summer vacations or back to school. But I do know that the winter holidays, the Christmas, Hanukkah, winter celebration stuff, that time's now. Go ahead and check that out at rockpaperscissors.biz in resources page as well. Hey, this has been super fun, Adam. I think you've provided a lot of stuff. In fact, maybe you've provided almost too much for somebody who's like diving in.
Walk some of that back.
Yeah. So someone's listening right now. Maybe they've gathered all that information. Let's give them one last bit of advice or encouragement before we sign off for today.
You don't have to do it all at once, and you don't have to do it all perfectly. Just if I said one thing today that you said to yourself, oh, that makes a lot of sense to me. That sounds like something I could do. I could go to that event that I keep getting emailed about. Or I think I could work with some of these creators that I know. Start there. Start small. The tools are going to keep changing. The trends will come and go. Agencies will come up and go away. But if you are serving real people in real ways, if you are making content that is genuinely trying to help and educate people, and in every email you send, you're trying to build real connection with people, and you really believe in what you're doing, you will always be ahead of the curve.
Nice. Awesome. Adam, this has been great. There's some things that came up here that I think we're going to have to dive into on future episodes. We barely talked about Kickstarter and crowdfunding. You mentioned it a couple times. I know you have been extremely successful there, so we'll have to do an episode about that sometime. We touched the tip of the iceberg on working with social creators, people in music that make videos, that have audiences and communities that brands want to work with. I think we could go deeper on that at some point. There's so many other possibilities there. I'm just excited to have you at Rock, Paper, Scissors, and super excited to see how we continue to help brands with this cross-service support around all the marketing services and the earned media. It's a blast. I'm having a blast with you, and thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, Dimitri.
Thanks for listening to Music Tectonics. If you like what you hear, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. We have new episodes for you every week. Did you know we do free monthly online events that you, our lovely podcast listeners, can join? Find out more at musictectonics.com. And while you're there, look for the latest about our annual conference and sign up for our newsletter to get updates. Everything we do explores the seismic shifts that shake up music and technology, the way the Earth's tectonic plates cause quakes and make mountains. Connect with Music Tectonics on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. That's my favorite platform. Connect with me, Dimitri Vitsa, if you can spell it. We'll be back again next week, if not sooner.
You're listening to Music Tectonics.